Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Sing cries of angels, sing in exaltation, sing, holy citizens of heaven above. Glory to God, glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord.
Psalm 85, from 8 to 11. I will listen to what God the Lord says. He promises peace to his people, his faithful servants. But let them not turn to folly. Surely his salvation is near those who fear him. That his glory may dwell in our land. Love and faithfulness meet together. Righteousness and peace kiss each other. The Lord will indeed give what is good, and our land will yield his harvest.
In the same Bethlehem, Son was born to the world of man. Gift of heaven, wrapped in skin, shepherds wept such a newborn. There were praises in the night, there was hope for God and man, glorious Son. So tell the people of the city, tell them all, God and man, glorious Son. God and man, glorious Son. In the city, weary man, precious gift, gracious gift, words of peace and goodwill to man, humble servant of the servant. There were praises in the night, there was hope for God and man, closer. Tell the people of the city, tell so loved the world that He gave His only Son, so whoever would believe in Him would have eternal life. For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, so whoever would believe in Him would have eternal life. For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, so whoever would believe in Him would have eternal life. There were praises in that night. There was glory. God and man closer. Tell the people of the city, tell them all. God and man closer. God and man closer to you.
My so Lord, as we come to your children in this season of Advent, we pray that our every worship, or every word, everything we do, be the word for you.
Nothing compares to your embrace. other name. Jesus, Jesus, my heart will sing. No other name. Jesus, Jesus, my heart will sing. No other name. Jesus, Jesus, my heart will sing. No other name. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. My heart will sing. No other name. Jesus, Jesus, my heart will sing. No other name. Jesus, Jesus.
In the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new life.
In the soil I surrender. You are breaking new ground.
So I yield to you
And to your careful hand.
when I trust you, I don't need
To
to understand.
make me your vessel.
Make me an offering.
Make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing. Lord, all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me.
In the crushing, in the pressing, you are making new life.
In the soil I surrender.
You are breaking the ground. So I yield to you
And to your careful hand.
when I trust you. I don't need
To understand. Make me a vessel. Make me an offering. Make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing. With all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Make me your vessel. Make me an offering. Make Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Make me a vessel. Make me an offering. Make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing, but all you have given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me.
Lord, we thank you for the transformation power in our lives. Lord, we can't just grasp you in our understanding, Lord. We can't grasp you with simple words. That you are in our pain and our sorrows. You're in a celebration, whether it be new wine or wedding. Or be celebrating the coming of the return of the Son. We praise you.
Speak to me when the silence steals my voice. You understand me. You understand me. Come to me in the valley of unknowns. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I throw my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. I believe, but help my unbelief. You understand me. You understand me. Help me reach the faith that's underneath. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I throw my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. I will you're bigger than I thought. So I start all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. I will rest in my Father's hands. Leave the rest in my Father's hands. I will rest in my Father's hands. Leave the rest in my Father's hands. I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were.
Lord, as we come to you today, O God, to celebrate this beautiful gift that you've given us, God. As we come to you to celebrate communion today, God, we pray that we would just see you working through our lives, God, through everything we do. Give every aspect of our life into your hands, God, to be used by you. Today being the first Sunday of the month, we have communion, which we'll celebrate later. You don't have to be a member of the church. We just ask that you believe in God. You believe that He can save you of your sins, of all that we have. So our next song is a bit of a celebration song. So Matt is going to be talking about a bit of celebration today. So you can feel free to clap. Of course you can sing along with us, but you can feel free to clap with the song. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be
be your glorious name.
Blessed be your name, and sun shining down on me. The world's all as it should be. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name. On the road marked with suffering, was bringing the offering. Blessed be your name.
Every blessing you pour out, turn back to blessing.
When the darkness closes in, Lord,
Still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the glorious name. Oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name.
I notice that no one is clapping, so I'll help you with the clapping, right? So you can go, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Blessed be your glorious name. Oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, blessed be your name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Oh, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name.
It's in John 2, verse 1 to 11. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him.
Good. So, currently we have been in a sermon series where we're looking at Jesus' life and seeing how we can be like Jesus. At the same time, we're also in a time of year that is referred to as Advent, where we remember that this is the time frame in which the people were waiting for Jesus to come the first time, and then we'll celebrate that Jesus has come. And we're also reminding ourselves that we're waiting for Jesus to come back again. And so we have a bit of both of these themes throughout today. We're looking at Jesus' life. We're in John chapter 2, as we had from our reading today. And we're going to see how Jesus starts to reveal his glory of who he is. The fact that this story is written in John chapter 2, in the Gospel of John, is somewhat important for what we're wanting to get across. So, for one, John is very clear about why he wrote his Gospel. In John chapter 20, verse 31, he says, "I've written this to you so that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you might have life in his name." So, belief that Jesus is truly this awaited one, the Son of God, is what John is going for. And part of how John sets up his whole gospel is that there are these signs that Jesus shows throughout. There are 7 signs that Jesus does throughout his gospel so that people can believe these signs. So, the first sign, we're told very specifically, is the one we're looking at today. Right at the end, it says, this is the first sign that Jesus did, and his disciples believed in him. So, we're looking at that. This is a sign. This is important for the overarching story of what John's trying to get across about Jesus. But why? What is this a sign of? And that's what we'll start with.
Yeah, so first let's have a walk through this story.
While you sit still, because this is Corona conscious.
You stay 2 meters set. Anyway, so in this passage, Jesus is in Cana in Galilee. So we worked out you could probably do like a weekend break there. It's near Nazareth, but not that near. And he's attending a wedding there. Weddings are
closer to your microphone.
Sorry. I'm gonna like perch to get closer. So wedding. What?
You can lower it. It makes it easier for you. I think. Or is that the
Can I?
stand?
Yes, I can. So weddings are a huge celebration here. They were held at the groom's house, and they could last for up to a week. So very different to your Dutch courthouse affair that we have here in the Netherlands. Big party. But this could end up as a wedding remembered for all of the wrong reasons. I wonder if any of you are familiar with the sort of low-budget, very British TV show called Don't Tell the Bride. If you're not, don't waste half an hour of your life on it. I wouldn't advise looking it up later. But it's a show where the groom is placed in charge of planning the whole wedding. So everything from the hen do up until what the bride is wearing on the day, the wedding cake, where the wedding is held, it's all up to the groom. Now, on the odd occasion, the groom does quite well, but more often than not, it's very clear that the happy couple have very different ideas about their special day. And suitable camera-friendly drama ensues at the end of it, and it's quite a shocker of a wedding.
Thankfully, my wedding was not all recorded, nor the preparations for it. I totally had some ideas that got shot down long before the wedding actually happened. It's like, we could do this. No. What if I sang to you while you're walking down the aisle? No. Well, we could, no. So,
Yeah.
Christine is probably glad I didn't sign up for a UK reality TV show.
So in verse 3, the wedding is facing this high-stakes crisis, not of the groom's soul design, as in the case of Don't Tell the Bride, but of the visitors, because they're running out of wine. Now, to us, at least to me, the low-stocked bar might not seem like the disaster it appears to be here. I think it's worth considering for the Europeans amongst us that the emphasis placed on hospitality in this particular cultural context. In this specific culture, a wedding whereby the groom could not provide for or satisfy the needs of his guests could mean that the groom would be faced with profound shame. In-laws giving their beloved daughter away. This goes beyond the sort of slap on the wrist that the grooms in Don't Tell the Bride receive.
Last night I had some of my colleagues over at my house. One was Indian and one was Iranian, and even though all three of us are guys, we got talking about weddings for part of it, and the dowries that are expected in their cultures and how that works. And so even up to this day, for some of it was, if the family of the groom doesn't provide to the bride's family or vice versa, the things that are expected, that can lead to major problems, not just on the day of the wedding, but even like further in, where they said, oh, well, if they don't do well enough, then that might lead to mistreatment of the bride or groom later by the other person's family. We're not told that there was going to be like honor, shame, violence done against this groom for running out of wine, but like, is that sort of a thing? This is a big deal in a small town where people live most of their lives. Like 30 years later, they would still remember what happened at this wedding. I may have been at one or two weddings of people in this room right now, and I'll probably remember your wedding, none of you for the bad reasons. Fear not. But think of a place where there's not all that moving around. People would know this. People would remember this. And so it's a really bad situation. Thankfully, for the bride and groom, yes, Mary is there. Jesus' mother was invited to the wedding, as was Jesus and his disciples. And we're not told what connection they had specifically. There's the assumption that maybe they were related somehow, because when Mary sees that they're out of wine, she takes it upon herself to feel like something needs to get done and that she's going to be part of getting this done. So Mary goes up to Jesus and says, Jesus, fix it. Sort of. And we wonder, why? What did she expect Jesus to do? Like, Jesus wasn't wealthy at this moment. He's not rolling in dough or something. And he hasn't done any public miracles. Had he done private ones? Had she seen something? We don't I'm not told she had. How does Mary just know Jesus is the one to solve this? I'm not sure, but she has this faith in him. And Jesus' response is kind of interesting. It's like, dear woman, it's not my time. My hour hasn't come. And that phrase, my hour has not come, shows up through John's gospel again. This is very intentional how it gets used, and he mentions it several times throughout the whole narrative. And when he's talking about my hour has not come, it keeps pointing us towards Jesus being crucified. What does making wine, like solving a wedding problem, have to do with being crucified? And why would that not be good enough, right? Like, you might have that assumption. But, I mean, Jesus knows people, and we see as Jesus does miracles in the time to come, like people who are trying to make him king or people who are trying to do stuff by force, like Jesus knows that when he does a miracle, people go crazy. And like, not always in a good way. Some of those are the ones that get excited about it and then try to make Jesus their kind of king that they expected. But also from the opposite side, where he does miracles and people are like, we're going to kill him. Which is so interesting and weird as you read through these gospel accounts of, if Jesus does something good, we got to kill that guy. And so Jesus, in part, is saying this, like, I know if I do something right now, it's putting me in an awkward position that might get people actually angry at me and might speed up a timeline that I'm not trying to speed up. Jesus knew he would be crucified. He follows that pathway throughout. He tells his disciples about it, but he wasn't going to do it too soon. So Jesus says, it's not my time. This isn't the hour. Now you would think the Mary who trusts that Jesus can do something about this also then understands Jesus knows what he's talking about. But she like totally bombs it. It was like, yeah, so anyway, servants, do whatever Jesus just told you. Just listen to him. She not only believes Jesus can do something, but despite his protests, she believes he will do something. And is going to. And I don't know. I don't know if your mom's like that, where she's like, do this. And you're like, Mom, I'm not the time. She's like, you're doing it. I don't think now as like a grown 30-something-year-old man, as Jesus was in this setting, that my mom would push that. But Mary totally was. She's like, just do whatever he tells you to do. So Jesus tells them to do something. He sees these ceremonial washing jars that are large and says, go fill them up with water. And this isn't like a small amount. It's not like, okay, this will take 10 seconds because I'll turn on the faucet and I'll fill it up. Like, these were gallons and gallons or liters and liters, depending upon your background and what you say for it.
So I was trying to think of like a cross-cultural measurement of water that everyone understands. And I think that measurement is a bathtub, and it equates to 5 bathtubs full of water. So if you can picture that in your mind. It's quite a lot.
It takes time for me to fill up just my one bathtub for my boys using a faucet, like as though like I have to turn this on, okay, and now we have to get out your clothes and do all this other ritual, and it's still not filled up. And then doing that 5 times by hand. Yikes. So these servants, Mary sees the authority that Jesus apparently has. These servants do as well, where, okay, Jesus told us to do this, so we will. They fill it up with water, and then Jesus says, go take some of that to the master of ceremonies. Like, we all know the end of this story, right? The water turns into wine. But we don't know when that happened. And so I wonder what that was like for the servants. Like, were they trying it out? Like, still tastes like water. Tastes like maybe grape-infused water, but it's not that strong. They have this moment of truth of they take it up to the master of the feast. Like, here, drink this. Now, if it just tastes like water, what do you think is going to happen to them? What are you doing? Go away. Why did you bring me water? This doesn't solve the problem. They might have been putting themselves at risk in this whole thing. Like, oh, Jesus told me to. I'm going to do it. But instead, he tries some of this, and his eyes just like, no, like this was, whoa. This is good. This is good. Feels similar. So last night when I had these friends over at my house, my wife knows how to make really good chocolate chip cookies. Just admit that. And she's told me what I need to do. So I made some chocolate chip cookies for these guys, and I told them, like, trust me, these are good. And like they put them up to their mouths, and even before they've like actually got their teeth all the way through it, like his eyes just lit up. He's like, these are good. Oh, these are really good. I told you so. But it's like, even before the taste is in their mouth, just the like texture, all like everything is so good about it. And I feel like that must have happened with this. Like the guy's like, it's coming up, and like it just touches his lips, and he goes, this is not what I expected. Which was like a different part of the meal last night, but I'll leave that out. So this is not what I expected. He calls the groom over, he's like, why did you leave this until the end? After everyone's like, they've drank their full, they're not hungry or thirsty anymore, and like now you have all this, like, why didn't you give this earlier in the process? And then we're told this is the first of Jesus' signs, and his disciples put their trust in him. So as I asked earlier, like, what is this a sign of? What are they finding out about Jesus from this?
So I think that one of the key things that we can see about Jesus here is that he's saving this bridegroom from shame, and he's preserving his honor. Jesus didn't have to do this miracle. He could have just let the groom run out of wine. And this miracle came at personal risk. He could have been outed. He could have been killed before his time has come. But here Jesus makes a choice to save the bridegroom from humiliation, from the judgmental in-laws, from being remembered as were you at his wedding? But instead, he's provided with this really joyous wedding to remember. And I think, that's a pretty incredible thing. And I don't know, we see him. It's interesting also who we see Jesus displays power to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting that like the important people, we're not told if the bride and groom know what happened, but the master of ceremonies, we're told, doesn't know where this came from. So like the important person doesn't know, and the people who actually see this miracle and know what's just happened are servants, his mom, and his disciples. And so it's not the ones that are like, oh, Jesus isn't showing off for this, oh, so I can become more important. Instead, it's kind of the lowly, the ones that might look shameful to everyone else in the crowd, but they're the ones who actually get to see like the goodness and glory of God in that. Which, as I said, we're in Advent, we're looking at some of these things, and like that's the idea that Jesus gives honor to those who don't seem important and takes away our shame is so much a part of the Christmas narrative as well. That you have shepherds and a young virgin from the middle of nowhere and her husband-to-be that is just a worker, like a carpenter type person. And these are the ones that get angels talking to them and get to see this miracle. And they're given honor by the God of eternity who considers these as worthwhile, instead of going to the kings and the leaders of that day. But also just the removal of shame. Like, even the fact that Jesus became a human. Have you ever considered how amazing it is that you have a body. And the fact that in your body has lived the Son of God. Like Jesus, he became a human. He put on skin. He didn't think that that was too unimportant for him. And like these very weak things that we walk around with every day, he infused with himself and gave honor. And so it's the fact that he came as a weak baby. Like all of these, we see that stuff that we would just be like, oh, this is shameful, or the fact that we have sinned and shame that have been a part of our lives, and Jesus came to take that away. Like all of these things are shown at the very beginning of his life and throughout it.
Yeah, and I think it's also key here, we're not only just saved through shame from ism, but like certain death, hell, and judgment.
Pretty bad things.
Which is all, it's just amazing, isn't it? So I think a second characteristic we see displayed in this miracle is Jesus' generosity and joy in giving. This is a powerful, miraculous act that Jesus does here. This is a huge amount of wine that Jesus produced, and there are multiple eyewitnesses of this account. Disciples, servants. This is not Jesus swapping out like a bottle of wine on the sly that he's brought in his back pocket just in case the wedding got a bit dull. This is a huge, generous deed.
And that generosity is also one of those things that's the character of God that we see throughout the whole Bible. God gives and gives more than enough. Mm-hmm. And so Jesus is kind of living that out as well, same as we see in Christmas, right? Like that God gave his only son to the earth as this huge, generous offer that God does not because he's reciprocating to us. Oh, well, you gave me this gift, so I'm going to give you this other gift back. He's the initial giver, the one who does what he doesn't have to do and puts himself in harm's way to be generous. And so we see that in Jesus living out what God's character has been like before. And if you follow through, especially the Old Testament prophets, this picture of grain, wine, and oil, those three things are often used, sometimes just two of them together, or often all three, as pictures of God's blessing on people, or of God's goodness, or bringing back, restoring fortunes. Is like, oh, you've had this time of drought, but I will restore to you grain, wine, and oil. And so it seems like this is also connecting with some of those Old Testament prophecies of God would come and he would give this abundance of a daily necessity, of something to drink, to his people. And they seem to start getting it because we're told that his disciples put their faith in him. They see it, and they see it as God's glory with senses unimpaired. The wine that he's given is better than the earthly stuff that they had as well, which we see in the reaction of the feast master.
Yeah, so you have this master of the feast. He's shocked not only of how good the wine is, to the point he's calling the bridegroom over to go, hang on, what on earth are you doing bringing the nice wine out last? That Jesus has produced better wine, I think, is telling from what we can expect from Jesus, that he can give far better gifts, shockingly so, than what this world gives us. And I think, the ultimate gift of salvation through him is that. And I wonder if you think about this in your week. I probably do not enough, that God isn't just this nice add-on, this nice warm hug on a Sunday, but he is a giver of gifts that are far better than what is available on this earth.
And so, in especially these two things, removing shame, giving honor, being shockingly generous, it seems like what we come to is that Jesus is really trying to show them, hey, I have the character of God. Why? Because he is the Son of God. And that's what John wants us to see in how he writes this as well. That Jesus is more than just a nice guy, or even like a friendly, generous neighborhood superhero. Like
Yeah.
he is truly the Son of God, the Christ, the one they've been waiting for this whole time. And so we're told that he manifested, or he displayed, or he showed his glory through this. That these disciples, I don't know if they actually, how much they get of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
how much does Mary or disciples really understand? They certainly didn't understand Jesus' mission to be crucified, but how much did they understand, like, who they're talking to? Kind of like that Christmas song that's about, like, Mary, did you know that your baby boy... If you've never heard it, it's a great song. But it goes through, like, did you really get what was happening to you? And we don't know what extent they did, but they got something. They put their faith, their trust in Jesus because of this. Because they were starting to get, oh, something's happening here. Which, one of his disciples, we're not told if he was there or not, but one of his disciples is John, who ends up writing this whole scenario and intentionally connecting it with God and what God is wanting to do. Here's going to be my Bible nerd part for the day. One of them. So, the Gospel of John is meant to reflect the book of Genesis in various ways. Easy enough clue is the very, very beginning, right? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. Eventually gets around to like all things being created through Him. Like there's an obvious correlation there. But he doesn't stop with that. So not long after the creation of things in Genesis chapter 1, we get the first wedding. You get there's man, there's woman. God puts them together and says the two, they're going to be one, and they're going to leave their father and mother and become one. Wedding-ish. That's Genesis chapter 2. So John chapter 2, what are we at? A wedding! There are more examples that come through, but this John, one of his disciples, apparently does get this. Where like he sees Jesus and he puts his trust in him and he goes, this Jesus is God. So he writes, inspired by the Spirit, to help us get that, to make these connections of this God who is created has now in Jesus recreating the good that he wanted to have from the very, 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 very beginning.
And I think also it's worth making a link between John 2 and Revelation. So if we go right to the end of the other end, we're told about new creation, about a new heaven, new earth, and that's described as a wedding too, where you have the the church being presented as a bride, so God as the bridegroom. So there are echoes of that here too, as well.
Beginning, middle, and end. I love it. So John chapter 2, you didn't realize was sort of an encapsulation of the whole storyline. Or a piece within it that echoes some of these things.
Yeah. So I think the Jesus that we encounter in this passage is a Jesus that, as Matt said, clearly can't be pigeonholed as just like a prophet or a truth seeker or a good man. Equally, I think that there is a danger here that we start seeing Jesus as some kind of like Father Christmas-like character, which he is not. He's not just that. He's God. He is divine giver and saviour, but also Lord of our lives that we should put our trust in. I wonder if you fall into that trap like I do, so making him smaller than he really is. So maybe thinking of God as a good man or a nice friend, which he wants to be our friend. Don't get me wrong, but if you only see him as that, you don't have to listen to him that hard, do you? The result of this sign, as indicated in verse 11, is that his glory was manifest. It was made known. The disciples saw this. and they trusted in him. And as Matt was saying, they still don't completely understand who Jesus was. We, thankfully, have a better understanding through the Bible of Jesus' role and who he is. We know that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, but he also now rules over us. And I think that's something to celebrate. That this Jesus, who gives freely and cares deeply about us, is the one who is Lord over our life. Not our boss, not our parents, or your supervisor in my case, but like the Jesus who ensured that this party could continue, potentially at personal cost. So I think that a right response to this is to praise him for who he is and the aspects of character shown here. Equally, we've been trying to think of a
Jesus life step.
That's the name.
It's the dance that you're going to do at the next wedding.
Fantastic.
Jesus life step.
It's involved like putting hands out. No, the practical Jesus life step is to come up with a Jesus life step. No, it's not. It's really not.
So meta.
Do
You want me to do that?
Yeah.
So, your Jesus life step for this week is to spend at least 2 minutes every day. More is all the better. But like when it comes to this idea of glory, like I don't know how that connects with you, but you're like, glorious. How much do you think or use the word glory in your everyday life? I don't always. But to take time and think of that, like Jesus displayed his glory and his disciples like saw it. So partially we should put ourselves in the role of the disciples. Like spend time, I don't know, that could be, you mentioned several times, like brushing your teeth. It's like, let's think about the glory of God because it's sparkling white glory. I don't know.
It's just the 2 minutes thing.
The 2 minutes. Oh, some people brush their teeth for 2 minutes. To take part of your day and to think about that. What does the glory of God mean to you? What is that? But then also, because we're also meant to like be like Jesus, how can you reflect the glory of God? We're not here to reflect our own glory, as Jesus like, he displayed his glory, but we are meant to be ones who show the glory of God forward. And I love how 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and 4 kind of connects with some of this. Paul was writing and he said, he was likening it to this Old Testament thing when the glory of God would shine off of the face of Moses because of his time with God. And Moses was somewhat like, it was too much for the people to take, so he would hide his face at those moments. And Paul is saying, we don't have to do that now. In Jesus, in this new covenant, we, with faces that are just open for the world to see, without corona masks, I guess, like we with unveiled faces are displaying the glory of God. And so we're supposed to be part of that as well, showing this glory. And just a few verses later, he talks about, but we have this incredible treasure in clay jars. Where else have I heard clay jars used today? So this picture of what God is doing in us is something to show his glory as well. And so that's part of that Jesus life step, is take time to consider God's glory, but also how's that flowing out from you? How's that overflowing from you? How is what he's doing inside of you showing his glory? Maybe something that can be taken towards others as part of this celebration.
Where else would I rather be than sitting here at your feet? I pour out every ounce, all that is within me. Jesus, I will worship you. I am here to worship you. It's in your presence I receive every gift you have for me. So I give my all to you. You know the depth of my sin, yet you invite me to drink. You pour out a healing love, eternal life flows in me. Jesus, I will worship you. I am here to worship you. It's in your presence I receive every gift you have for me. So I give my all to you. Jesus, I will worship you. I am here to worship you. I'm not deserving of your touch, but still you choose to fill my cup. So I give my all to you. You died a merciless death, emptied yourself with each breath. You poured out every ounce. Your sacrifice has saved me. Jesus, I will worship you. I am here to worship you. It's in your presence I receive every gift you have for me. So I give my all to you. Jesus, I will worship you. I am here to worship you. And if I give my heart and soul, it's just a fraction of what's owed. So I give my all to you. Jesus, I will worship you. I am here to worship you. And if I give my heart and soul, it's just a fraction of what's owed. So I give my all to you.